Hey everybody, I'm Randy Writings, and this is the Quadyak. What you're looking at here is some detailed pictures of the rear wheels. I made those with plastic mag wheels covered with uh, discs that I cut from 5-gallon buckets and then filled with foam. Today we're going to be looking mostly at the front axle. This is a continuation of the rebuild notes and then a little surprise at the end.
We are finishing up the axle, and I wanted to point out the axle is split in the middle. That's why there are a pair of bearings on either side to hold the weight, because each one needs its own pair of bearings. I'm going to place the sprocket in now and show you what that looks like. Alright, so the sprocket will go on the end of this shaft here. It will have a pin through it there. That's what Dad's about to drill the holes in these, so I need to get the axle back out. And then you can see that sprocket is lined up with that one. That's what we have to do. And then line the piece that bridges the two axles and get all that lined up with the holes drilled on this side to anchor it. This piece right here goes on the inside of the wheel, and then we have a hub system for the outside. So the wheel slides over this shaft and locks up against that kind of plug on the end, and then you have this piece, which is a cut up disc brake, which allows us to use it like a hub on a wheel set up for disc brakes. And then that just threads on to the end. We're doing that to figure out where we're drilling these holes to lock it in place. So we have now got a hole drilled through here and a bolt through that locks that mechanism to the axle. Right now I'm working on the two locking rings. That's what locks these bearings in place. These can turn, and they're kind of a cam, so you spin them until they lock in place. Maybe give them a tap with a hammer and punch. That's what I'm about to do in that hole, and then you just tighten up this set screw, and that's what locks your bearing into place. Once that's all locked into place, we'll tighten the bearing holders on. Dad's finished the outer end of this axle, and we will put the wheel out there. The right side of the axle is now complete, minus the tire out at the out end. So this pin is now in. It's been drilled through, and now so the sprocket is now attached firmly to the axle. This sprocket has been lined up with this sprocket to where the outer ring lines up with the second one in down here at the bottom, and then this inner ring here lines up with the second one here. So that should give me the best travel, and the derailleur has plenty of movement there. Next thing I'll need to do is put a chain on here. Also locked in the rings. We've tightened up the bearing plates and locked in these cammed rings that lock the bearings in place. The outer edge has been drilled. Now it'll be a matter of putting the plug on the wheel and the outer hub and hooking all that up. We're doing a little more work to this because we expected this to come out flush, and it's missed it by about 1/8 of an inch. So Dad's going to work on it. But what we need to have happen is we need these holes to line up, and then we just put regular disc brake screws in there, and that locks this whole thing together. We have now gotten that plate onto this piece, and we have attached this. Now it's loose right now, but the axle will come in. We will line up a hole in this axle to that hole and pin it, and then tighten up all the bearing plates on this side, and then it will be time for the wheels. The next thing we have to do is attach this plate to this piece over here. Then this will come over. The drive mechanism is complete. Axles, wheels, everything, except for the chain. I forgot to bring a chain over. So when you pedal, drives this sprocket, which drives across this bridge the other sprocket. But if you'll notice, I can stop the drive axle, which is the one on the right. If I stop it, the one on the left continues going. Now, it doesn't work as well the other way, but it doesn't really need to. See, I can't drive it from the left-hand side. I can drive it backwards from the left-hand side, but that's not really necessary. So what this mechanism is, we like to call it a faux differential. It's not a real one, but it will allow the two front wheels to independently move, and so it allows you to take corners a little bit better. The only thing missing from the front end is the chain. We've got all the wheels together. Dad wants to make one more part to tighten up. We make a spanner wrench to tighten up these kind of inside plugs, just be able to snug them a little bit. But the wheel is held, it's pinned. There are 6 lug nuts through this disc brake to the hub of the wheel. Sometimes it's the little stuff that gets you. It's the stuff you don't think about. We realized that we had forgot when we assembled the axle the first time. We thought we were done, and then I looked at it and realized we had not put the disc brake discs on. Well, one of those disc brake discs needs to fit flush against this plate. We bought these new shoulder bolts and didn't realize that they come out of this plate just by about 1/8 of an inch or so. So what I'm working on now is I'm going back and I'm grinding each one of these down flat so the disc brake will be in the right place. Got my reading glasses on so I can see, and my safety glasses on to guard against sparks. And here we go. So there's the finished piece that I just grinded down. We've found that if we have 4 of these in, we can still put that over the other piece. I'm going to leave those 4 in. That's what is going on. But in the meanwhile, between the two, I will need a disc brake, and then one of those, and then these go down through to that part underneath. So that's what I'm going to do now, is reassemble that.
Hey everybody, spoiler alert, we got the rig running. I've rode it 21 miles now over 3 days, mostly short rides to test things. I'll post more of that later. This is a little snippet from a 6-mile ride with a bike club. It's called the chill ride for a reason. It's about an 8-mile-an-hour pace. I kept up with them just fine, except a few steep hills where I might drop a half a block behind, but I'd catch them on the downhill, no problem. I have at least one more video of build notes, snippets from the build to do, and I'll be posting that pretty soon, but I wanted to throw this on there for you to enjoy. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to my playlist or my YouTube channel as a whole. I have other videos about countercurrent kayaking and other inventions that I'm working on. Thanks very much. I'm Randy Ridings, and this is the Quadyak.